Hello, FAC family. It's March the 31st, and it feels like there's been 806 days in March so far, and I'm sure that the 30 days of April will also be extended. But today we're going to talk about pain, and we've all been experiencing some pain. Some of it is firsthand, and some of it is we're feeling the pain of our brothers and sisters. And I find that I've been doing a fair amount of crying, not in despair, but just of suffering and pain. And a few weeks ago, Reagan and I were at lunch, and we had a discussion, and I was there for some meetings, and she was, of course, at school, and I told her that one of my friends had sent me a text message and said, you know, I've been going through chemo, and all my hair fell out, and she can wear turbans, and she can wear hats, and she could cover up her head, but a couple of days before, she said all her eyebrows had fallen out, and she was going to be walking into this meeting these people for the very first time, and you know, it was going to be difficult for her. So I was talking to Reagan about, she's going to wear a hat and I'm going to wear a hat, but you know, her eyebrows have all fallen out, and she feels very conspicuous, and so.
If you haven't noticed yet, she shaved off her eyebrows.
So, yes. So, in order to show solidarity for my friend, you know, I shaved my eyebrows off. And, of course, nobody noticed. But my friend did, you know, and it was just a private thing between me and her that, you know, when she walked in, instead of her feeling like I'm the only one here who's sitting here with, you know, a bald face, she could look over at me, and I could, you know, wiggle my eyebrow bones or my eyebrow muscles, and she could laugh and go, you know, I'm not the only one. And you know, eyebrows are a small thing to give up. But right now, I have friends they literally can't breathe. And if I could, I would give them lung tissue. You know, I would do what I could to help them, but I can't. I find that I'm in a very helpless place, and I'm doing what I can. I'm praying for them, you know, but I can't do something to try to help. And so you're probably finding yourself in that same place where you're hurting for people that you love, people in your church family, people in your physical family, your neighbors, your coworkers. We're all hurting right now. And so today, just for a few moments, we want to talk about pain, and what can we do in pain? What is the purpose of pain? But for a few seconds, I want to talk to you about what not to do in pain. And first of all, don't make any irrational decisions.
Make rational decisions.
Don't make any permanent decisions during a temporary season. So put your financial, you know, big financial purchases on hold. This is not the time to go shopping for a new car, or, you know, this is not the time to make rash financial decisions. And even with your personal decisions, don't go back to an old relationship just because it was familiar. Don't bail on your family right now just because you're stuck with them and they're hard to get along with. Right now, in these moments of pain, these are not the time to make big life changes, unless you've been far from God. And in that case, come home. But so what not to do in pain, don't jump and make irrational choices. And also don't offer false comfort. Right now, I've talked to two of my dear friends who've lost their grandfathers in the last 72 hours. And they're hurting and they're struggling. And the thing that I have to make sure I don't do, and the thing I want to encourage you not to do, is let's don't give platitudes, or let's not use cliches. It is not helpful to say, oh, they're in a better place. That's not helpful. It's not helpful to say, all things have a purpose. That's not helpful right now. Right now, what people need to hear is, I'm sorry that you're hurting. and I'm hurting with you, and that I love you. I'm praying for you. How can I help? That's what people need right now. There will be a time when they will be able to come around full circle to there's a better place, and all of the things that are true. But right now, in the midst of pain, this is not the time for us to give, to be Tigger and give, cheerful admonitions about joyful reunions on the other side. This is the time right now to say, I'm hurting with you, and death is a sorrow. Paul says, we sorrow not as those who have no hope. And what that means is we do sorrow. We have hope, but we do sorrow, and we don't want to just try to gloss over that. So Reagan is graciously has agreed to do this. A few months ago, she was, for one of her classes, she wrote a paper on the subject of pain. And I asked her if she would share that here today. It's very personal for her, and I'm thankful that she's stepping out of, comfort zone to share it with us. But she's going to share with us something that she had written a few whiles back, a couple weeks ago.
Sorry.
And isn't it interesting? Isn't it beautiful how the Lord gives us ahead of time what we need? Isn't it beautiful how when we are hungry and need it, we go to the field and already has been planted and grown and now is ready to harvest the very things that we need. So, Reagan, will you share with us?
I wrote this a while back, but looking at it now, it seems kind of weird to think how drastically the world's changed since then. Who would have seen a global pandemic coming around the corner? But I guess that's life. It's full of unexpected events and people, twists of fate. We all have a general direction of where we want to go or what we want to do. May that be a detailed list of the next 20 years, or simply, I just want to make it to heaven. Whatever your expectations may be, we all have them. The problem is when life gets derailed, when it crashes, and nowhere to start the cleanup. With COVID, we have people who have weeks without work. There's sickness everywhere. Even those who are not sick and have tested positive for COVID are struggling. It's not rainbows and sunshine for sure. It's been cloudy for the last 2 weeks, and the weather forecast calls for emotional turbulence. So what do we do? When it seems like there's all the time in the world, but nothing to do, what do we do? What happens when we find ourselves not just on rocky ground, but walking over broken glass that cuts deeper and deeper? It's easier to talk about than to live. Situations in the Bible like Job, man, he had a rough life, but it all worked out in the end, right? Well, when it's not happening to us, it's easy to talk about embracing suffering until we experience suffering. It's less complicated for a surgeon to study the process of removing a tumor or doing open heart surgery until they're standing at the end of the table and someone's life is on the line. The sleepless nights and comfort of pen and ink and paper, showing what it looks like to close a ribcage, is very different from having someone standing in front of you and then on a table. But the thing about pain, even though it's easier experienced on paper, we have all felt it. Pain is a universal language. If there's one thing we can all understand, it is pain. Being small or big, deep or shallow. At one time we have all felt the cutting knife of pain and remembered it. There's no stranger to pain because it knows each of us deeper than we know each other sometimes, and sometimes even ourselves. It may not be evident in the lives around you, with most of us keeping our cards close to our chest, but it remains. Suffering and pain, these things are what we will have to deal with and continue dealing with as long as we're here. And the thing about living for Christ is that the choice to live a Christian life is not to choose a painless life. Being saved does not exempt you from pain, but it does bring purpose to that pain. In the Bible, God let Job suffer, and Peter was crucified, and Paul was beheaded. But he also came down and died for the very people who were nailing him to the cross. Our pain, difficult, and sometimes it seems like there's nothing that can be done with it. We don't understand why it's happening, will outlive you. Your story will touch people that you will never meet. And one day all that pain will be counted for the kingdom because of the lives you have touched through pain. To trust other people with our pain is the highest level of intimacy we can open ourselves up to. To break down the walls around the ugly, deformed mess that seems to be lying inside of us, what we don't want other people to see. Maybe it's the tattered, broken dreams that will never come true. The open wounds caused by people that you thought you could trust. Or maybe sickness who has taken loved ones from you. Right now, there are people that I think we know lying in hospital beds, maybe unable to see the outcome of these situations. But when we share our pain, we tell other people that they're not alone. The most impacting stories that you will ever tell will be your own. That's the power of testimony, isn't it? Is that it's not just happened in general, although those are great stories that we need to share. But when you share something that's happened to you, you show that even through pain, good things can happen to others as well. In James 1:4-5, it says, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience, and let patience have its perfect work, making you perfect and complete, lacking nothing. In these times, our faith is tested. And when our faith is tested, when we allow ourselves to morph into something different, we allow ourselves to morph into something better than we were through pain. Pain is not just to shine us up and make us glitter like some impenetrable Christian, but to show others our own scars and say, yes, it does hurt, but even so. Yes, it hurts, and I feel damaged and broken. But look what God can do even through pain, even though I am broken. In these times, when things are uncertain, and we don't know what's going to happen next, it's easy to forget what God has done for us. That God was the God of creation. He was there for your first breath and your first steps. That a month ago, when most of us didn't realize the severity of this, that He was God. And that when it all seemed to crash down, and even now that He is God still. And that's our message. That He is. To find joy even through what is happening is easier to say than to live. But through our pain, we allow two things to happen. We can allow God to be our comforter and our friend, to let peace and patience have a work in us. We can choose to grow closer to Christ, or we can choose to let pain be hidden and cause bitterness. It's hard to say when bad things happen that God is still good, that when loved ones are hospitalized, that God still sees. But the thing is, His goodness and His love is not dependent on our situation. He is our healer and our provider, yes, even when it doesn't feel like He is. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 1:3-4, blessed be the God and the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all of our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble, with the comfort which we ourselves are comforted by God, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble. I believe that God can do anything, that the one who formed us in his womb, who gave man breath, that placed the stars in the heavens and the hair on my head, sees what is happening, that he sees and that he is here with me in my pain, that he is no stranger to pain. Pain does not make God less God. That when he died on the cross to make everlasting life available to all who would believe, he did because he is the creator who loves us and created and still loves us, even in pain. Our part is to choose what we allow our pain to do. Like a chemical reaction, pain changes, but we control how it changes. I know my Redeemer lives. I know that one day we will all be in a place where joy is constant and pain is gone, but today is not that day. Today we still are here, and we still do have pain. And though there is pain now, uncertainty and confusion, I know the one that sees everything knows where I am. He knows where you are, where your loved ones are. The question is, what will you do? Will you close off your pain to where no one can see? Will you allow Christ to hold your pain and to use it for his glory? Who better to hold our hearts than the one who's created them? To allow yourself not only to feel pain, but allow God to use that pain to make you like him. To tug you onto the path of suffering for his sake. To be a light to the lost and the hurting. If there's ever a time that a light was needed, it's now. To trust him with your pain is to allow pain not only to have a purpose, but to embrace that purpose. To know pain is used and to mold us and shape us like him. Are we willing to feel suffering if it brings us closer to the Creator? Find it joy, brethren, when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. And let patience have its perfect work, making you perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Find it joy because it's making us like him. It's drawing us closer to him. Until our love for Christ is greater than fear of the unknown, the fear of suffering and pain, the pain we already hold, we cannot be more like him. Christ suffered willingly to bridge the gap between humanity and himself that will not only last for right now, but for eternity. So what will you do with your suffering? Will you let fear of what is here on this world keep you from an eternity of joy? Will you allow fear to frighten you away from what God wants to do with your pain? Or will you take this as an opportunity to be like Christ and to share his love and comfort? I pray peace and good health on you all.